the government as an entity in general? Do you trust the machinery of the system?
Yeah, I would say to a certain degree, yeah.
Okay. Do you trust your government?
About as far as I can throw them.
Do you think the government would ever lie to protect the people?
I think everybody's got something to hide, you know, something they don't want everybody to know. I don't think we all need to know it.
The government likes to keep things hidden, you know, the truth away from us. They don't really need to lie to us as much as it is sort of to show us the wrong truth.
If someone writes something on a piece of paper and, you know, there's little details in there about, you know, things that they can protect themselves, I don't worry about that. Yeah, again, like, you know, you're thinking about the little things, right? Like, I mean, I know there's lots of policies with lots of details and everything.
Yeah.
I mean...
I don't think it. I know they have been lying to us.
Okay.
It's been happening for a while now.
Well, again, I don't worry about stuff like that. Like, well, I'm a Christian, so I believe, you know, God is taking care of all of us, and I don't have to worry about other people, what they think or say, or...
To understand how this power structure works to keep us all under a general level of control, you need to understand the concept of compartmentalization. If you were to call your cable company, needing for some reason to speak with the owner, you'd have to go through a chain of people, starting from the bottom, the call center. From there, you would get one of the hundreds of people in the call center to pass you on to his or her supervisor. Of the few dozen supervisors, you would then ask to speak to the supervisor's manager. And of the handful of managers, you might ask to speak to the manager's boss, who's one of a small number of department heads. They would then direct you to one of a few vice presidents, who could possibly let you speak with the single president or CEO who sits at the top of the corporate structure. Now, think of a pyramid structure, kind of like the one on the back of a US dollar bill. Picture the CEO of a corporation, or president of a nation, chief of an intelligence agency, or general in an army. That guy is the leader. Sometimes he's elected, sometimes not. He will have an agenda of things he wants done in the form of actions by the people below him in the command structure. The leader can pass orders down to the next level, to the vice president, or lieutenant commander, or project manager, and each inferior level of management will then pass those orders or instructions on down the line to their teams and so on. This is the classic military chain of command style of organization. It is also the system of ranking for organized criminal syndicates, like the Mafia, Yakuza, and Triads, and also secret societies like the Freemasons, Knights of Malta, the Club of Rome, and the Bohemian Club. Often the leader is advised by people who belong to what are called think tanks. These think tanks are groups that formulate policies to be carried out by the leaders, and their members are often the so-called experts, statesmen, and industry leaders, and even corporate heads, who also belong to various other groups, think tanks, organizations, and societies. The persons belonging to these assorted groups form a networked system of interlocking influence peddling and control schemes, which, in their various forms, have guided the general progress of humanity for hundreds, if not thousands, of years.
There are these think tanks out there as well. And these entities are basically there to cook ideas based on what they need in the background and how they're going to get it from us and how they're going to get what they want at the end, and we're going to be left, like, you know, holding the bag, being hoodwinked. And those think tanks are responsible for some of the worst atrocities ever to befall mankind, because I know that there were think tanks back in the 20s and 30s that are like, if we fund these guys, they'll go over and take over Europe for us, and we won't have to do the dirty work. That way, if it doesn't work out, we're the good guys, right? And we'll bring 40,000 of them over to America in Operation Paperclip, and we'll make NASA, and then we'll bilk the American people out of a bunch more money.
What if our entire system, every external aspect of our lives that we plug into, from government, law, money, medicine, military, education, employment, energy, and even our sacred belief systems, were controlled and manipulated in a top-down pyramid fashion? Is it possible that a handful of very rich families could be at the top of this pyramid, and that our leaders, acting as lieutenants for this elite, control our information and perceptions for their combined benefit and at our expense? It's important to be aware of a German philosopher named Hegel and one of his philosophies called the Hegelian Dialectic, or problem, reaction, solution. This theory says that in order to create progress, a group in power may have to do things that will be disliked by an aware populace. So what they do is create a problem which garners a desired reaction of the population saying, something must be done to fix this problem. And then the solution is offered in the form of the progress you had already planned. So for instance, a sound motive often presented by 9/11 conspiracy researchers is that the US government desired to pass the USA Patriot Act, which gave it a ton of new controls, powers, and abilities over the general population. However, there was no reason to pass this law, that is, until the event of 9/11, after which this complex 300-page law was rushed through Congress without most members even reading it.
And this is, the misappropriation of Hegel's, dialect, the Hegelian dialect, where it's been morphed into they create a problem because they seek you to provide a reaction so that they can provide you with the solution from which they profiteer and steal your freedom and liberty. Whether it's, with 9/11 where they're saying, well, we have to protect you now, so now we're going to put a fence around your country. And now we're going to have national ID card because these terrorists got fake ID. And basically, they have a checklist of things they want.
On October 26, 2001, 40 days after the 9/11 attacks, President George Bush signed into law the USA Patriot Act, an acronym for Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism. The mark of this being part of a Hegelian dialectic is that the Patriot Act was offered as a solution to the people of the United States, even though it had been written before the 9/11 attacks.
In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can be sure it was planned that way.
So then, what is the truth? What is the plan? Is our world under a subtle form of dominating control by elite families who've planned for at least several hundred years to create a one-world government that controls all information and enforces that control with a world army funding everything with a one-world currency that's electronically based and cashless? Are we heading towards a version of the future not unlike 1984, where elites desire us to be implanted with microchips that verify our identity, our bank account digits, and all other pertinent information, including our location, tying us permanently to their system, and thus ending the idea of the free sovereign human? Those who hold financial, governmental, and authoritative power have the motive and opportunity to use social engineering techniques that have been perfected over the last 100 years to create whatever trends are set before us, whether it's a fashion fad or marketing a profitable war. They've deduced that only 15% of us use deductive reasoning and critical thinking, while the other 85% simply follow blindly and believe whatever they're told, because of an unquestioningly obedient posture towards those who claim authority. To get a better understanding of how this works in regards to both financial and social manipulation, visit thecauseofeffect.com for further information. On this website, you'll also find resources to give you a more complete view of how authoritative institutions are structured and why they push towards consolidating and centralizing power, including a very frank look at the outlined goals of the elites who exercise their power today.